Hear these words again from Mark chapter 12, verses 43 to 44, and it reads as follows. Then he called his disciples and said to them, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the treasury. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on." May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, O Lord, for you are my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Everyone wants to live a life that matters. How do you measure life? Someone wrote, "The paradox of our time is that we spend more but have less. We buy more but enjoy it less. We have bigger houses and smaller families, more conveniences but less time, more medicine but less wellness. We read too little, watch TV too much, and pray too seldom. We have multiplied our possessions but reduced our values. These are the times of tall men and short character, steep profits and shallow relationships. These are the days of 2 incomes but more divorce, of fancier homes or houses but broken homes. We've learned how to make a living but not a life. We've added years to life, not life to years. I guess you can hear me now. None of us want to admit it, but the truth is that today we have become a society that values everything and everyone according to size and monetary value. If it's bigger, then it's better. If it costs a lot of money, it must be good. If another version costs more or even more, it must be better. Now, we can go through life measuring it in dollars and cents, or we can live life through the spiritual values of love and service. We are here on All Saints Sunday remembering 21 people because of the life they live. For some, a simple life, but for all, a life of love and Christian service. We are encouraged today by the witnesses of those saints, many of whom were educators, federal workers, community activists, and pioneering leaders. Jeanette Butler Adams, a teacher who served on the United Methodist Women, Ushers, Worship, Bereavement Ministry, served as our church administrator. Joe Atkins, supervisor of Asbury Sound and Video Ministry. He helped others through his work in the Urban League and Postal and Federal Employers Union. Dr. Lorraine Bess, educator, community and civil rights activist, past president of the United Methodist Women, a disciple leader, part of the organizing members of Asbury's Endowment Fund, and a former chair of the Baltimore-Washington Conference Council on Ministries. Beatrice Corbett, who served with the United Methodist Women, Ushers, Food Pantry, Neighbor to Neighbor Breakfast. Doreen Dick, who served on many United Methodist Women mission projects. Leona Ferguson, who served with the United Methodist Women membership, bereavement, ushers, and Asbury Federal Credit Union. Delonte Gadsden, a beloved son and father and brother, a gifted artist and cartoonist. As a youth, he loved mission trips and carried that love of helping others into adulthood. Sleeta Giles, a faithful servant, a loyal sister and supporter. Wherever you saw her big sister Ruth, you saw Sleeta. So everything Ruth did, Sleeta did as well. Evelyn Gray, teacher, served with the United Methodist Women's Sunday School, the Capital Area Food Bank. She marched in the March Against Apartheid, and she participated in driving voters to the polls. Mary Harris, faithful servant, community activist, navigated discriminatory times of her childhood and youth in Alabama. Lois Jones, founder of the Geriatric Daycare Center. She helped others by working with the downtown cluster of congregation, Sibley Memorial Hospital, and Community Group Health. Virginia Major, another community activist, founder of the Ward 8 Farmers Market, and served with the United Methodist Women and Archives and History. Reverend Dr. William Bobby Mcclain, who everybody knows, seminary professor and civil rights leader who served as a faithful teacher, mentor, and coach of seminarians and preachers. His life work impacted the United Methodist Church and beyond, locally, across the nation, and really around the world. Cleora Morton, one of the founders of the food pantry, served on the Wesleyan Choir and Higher Praise. Maddie Nelson served on United Methodist Women and Ushers. Elsie Price, a faithful member. Warren Price, her father, who served with the United Methodist Men, the Bereavement Committee, and was a troop leader for troop number 542, our Boy Scouts troop. Lanice Robinson, teacher and adjunct professor, church historian, pioneer in archives and history at Asbury and in the Baltimore-Washington Conference and in the Northeastern jurisdiction of the United Methodist Church. Christine Robenzine, a teacher who served with United Methodist Women and the Bell Choir. Joyce White, a faithful member. And Herman Thompson, who served 18 years as president of Asbury's trustees and 20 years as president of the Asbury Dwellings, and served with the United Methodist Men, Ushers, and so many other ministries. And he led our last major capital campaign. So friends, we can go through life measuring it in only dollars and cents, or we can live a life of love and service as those that we are remembering did. Today's gospel lesson, known as the story of the widow's mite, is a teaching on the stewardship of life. We find ourselves at the temple, in the court of women where the temple treasury was located. Jesus is sitting there watching what we today would call the offering plate. Can you imagine that? Jesus is watching people give their offering. He sees wealthy people coming and going, putting in large sums of money, and then he sees a poor widow put in 2 small coins, 2 lepta, which was all that she had, not just in her purse, but all that she had to live on. Her contribution to the temple treasury seems insignificant. Her 2 lepta, which were the smallest coins in circulation, were nearly worthless, worth really less than a penny. Back then, it would have taken 128 lepta to make 1 denarius, which equaled a day's wage. Her gift was inconsequential by any ordinary standard, yet Jesus commends her as an example to his disciples. The wealthier people gave significantly more than the poor widow, but their offerings were not praised. We see then that it is not the size of the gift given that matters. Jesus is really making the point that there is a difference between giving out of abundance and giving out of sacrifice. The wealthy gave out of their abundance, while the poor widow gave out of her poverty. It would have been customary for any Jew in good standing to give their tithe. But after tithing, the wealthier people would have had more than enough to live on, while a poor person's giving would drastically affect their livelihood. It is like the difference between Bill Gates giving $1 billion annually to college scholarships for high-achieving minority students and a family of 4 living on $40,000 a year giving more than $4,000 to their church. The poor widow went well beyond the tithe, but it is not the woman's poverty that makes her gift so significant. It is her sacrifice. The real point is that the woman did not merely give God her best, she gave God her all. She trusted God with her whole substance and security. She placed all of her faith in God. Well, now, is Jesus really commending us to be reckless in our giving? Take food out of your family's mouth, don't pay your bills, give away your retirement? No. The bottom line we are to draw from this text is that God calls for more than a prescriptive tithe. But what God really wants from us is wholehearted self-giving that transcends dollars and cents. I must say that again. What God really wants from us is wholehearted self-giving that transcends dollars and cents. God calls for our all. The true gift to give is everything we have, just as Jesus gave his everything for us when he laid down his life in order that we would be saved. The true gift to give is to offer yourself as a living sacrifice unto God. That is giving all your best. What kind of giving is this? Well, we can look to the example of Mother Teresa, born Agnes Bajaxiou to Albanian parents. She went to India in 1929 as a member of the Loretta Order of Nuns, and there she taught for many years and became head mistress of a school. But in 1946, she received her call within a call to work in the slums of Calcutta, aiding the city's poorest of the poor. And by 1948, she had received permission to leave the Loretta Order and trained in nursing skills needed to carry out her calling. She prayed, "Oh God, if I cannot help these people in their poverty and their suffering, let me at least die with them, close to them, so that I can show them your love." Because of Mother Teresa's sacrificial love and service, From its simple beginning, in her lifetime, the Missionaries of Charity grew to include 4,000 sisters and brothers, 755 homes, and 1,369 medical clinics that served 120,000 worldwide. Do you see now that the true gift to give is to offer yourself as a living sacrifice unto God? Well, let me put it another way. A missionary to Chad tells of a really unusual offering he received in the church where he was serving. In the prayer he said just before the offering plate was passed, he talked about total dedication and thankfulness, about giving back in some measure to the Lord that which had been bestowed on each member of the congregation. Now there was a young woman, a new believer, one who had nothing to give. She had no money and no belongings, and yet she knew she had been blessed. So as the offering plate came to her, she silently set the offering plate on the floor and got up and stood in the offering plate. That is the gift to give. That is the witness that we see among the saints we have recognized today. And what would make the greatest difference in our ministry here at Asbury would be for 100 more committed disciples to step up. Not 100 people who will give 10% of their earnings to this church. Not 100 people who will give 10% of their time, talent, and treasure. I can only imagine what it would be like if 100 more people just did those things. We would have finished this sanctuary restoration project by now. The exterior walls would be repointed, the stained glass windows would be re-leaded, the roof and interior gutters would be repaired, and the interior plastering and restoration according to historical standards would all be done. We would have upgraded our audio-visual capability with the cameras and monitors and screen and equipment we need for a quality hybrid worship service that connects online and in-person worshipers. We would even have the needed hearing loop system for those who are hard of hearing. We'd have our electronic signage that Willie Clark is always talking about, an upgraded security system, and a refreshed kitchen to serve our community. And just more importantly, we would be able to do a more comprehensive ministry with our unhoused neighbors, affordable housing and health care, job training and reentry into the workforce. But God is really calling us to do something more than that, something that transcends dollars and cents. What would make the greatest difference in our ministry would be for 100 more committed disciples to step up. What Asbury really needs is 100 more people with spirits like the young woman from Chad. 100 men and women who are willing to give 100% of themselves to God. Are you willing to be a disciple 100%? Are there any disciples in God's house today? Are there any disciples who are bold enough to come forward and stand in God's offering plate? That is the invitation today. God is calling for committed disciples. Are you one of them? Is there anyone here who will say, I'm going to live so God can use me? Anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm going to live so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime.